Our book is called The Island, A Tale of Calypso by Emerson, Jack, Bean, and myself, Andre. It was a warm summer day on the beautiful island of Ojija. On the island, there was a pretty girl named Calypso. On that day, a handsome boy washed up ashore. His name was Odysseus. Since Odysseus was injured, Calypso takes him back to her cave and nurses him back to health. When the boy wakes up, he tells the girl that he was on his way to see his girlfriend when a great storm blew him off course and landed him on her island. Every day, from then on, Calypso and Odysseus had fun in the sun. Each day, their friendship grew more and more. One day, a mighty god named Hermes comes to Calypso's cave. After she gives him some lunch, he tells her that her newly found best friend must go home to his girlfriend, Penelope. After a long time of crying and thinking, Calypso understood that Odysseus must return to his girlfriend, Penelope. Calypso and Odysseus decide to spend one more day together, laughing and having a great time as friends. The next morning, Calypso gives Odysseus a raft, as well as plenty of cookies and juice boxes to last him the way home. Saddened by her only friend leaving, the beautiful Calypso goes back to her lonely life. The end.
I really like the laugh. My favorite part was,
why didn't she just say Penelope was his wife?
This is our storybook. It's called Eurylochus, the First Crewmate by Lewis Warner, Ellie O'Brien, and Banks Flager. Eurylochus is the right-hand man of Odysseus as they lead a crew on adventures in an attempt to get back home. Odysseus and Eurylochus spot smoke coming from Circe's palace on the island of Aia. They must stop on the island and meet with the sorceress. When they arrive on the island, they see many magical animals. Eurylochus is afraid that Circe may try and turn the crewmen into animals as well. This is Eurylochus thinking she is tricky. Eurylochus warns Odysseus about Circe. However, it is too late. The crew is already turned into animals. As Odysseus goes to save his crewmen, Eurylochus tries to save himself and runs away. Eurylochus is upset and fighting with Odysseus because Odysseus went back to save his men. Before Odysseus kills Eurylochus, they are broken apart by the crew members. Eurylochus and Odysseus make amends for the argument that they had earlier. Odysseus talks to the blind prophet Tiresias about how to get home. Tiresias tells Odysseus that he and his group must not touch the cattle on the island of Helios. Eurylochus takes the hungry crew behind Odysseus' back and steals a couple of the cattle for them to eat. The crew pays for disobeying Tiresias' orders by getting caught in a storm sent by Zeus. The only survivor is Odysseus. Care to read the title page?
Okay, our story is The Wrath of Poseidon by Jackson White, Evan Brown, Asia Hoskins, and Drew Lilly.
As Odysseus leaves the battle at Troy, he says that he doesn't need the gods because he is awesome.
This is Odysseus saying, we don't need the gods.
Poseidon, god of the sea, hears what Odysseus just said, and says that he will have to pay later.
I am Poseidon. You will pay for that.
Odysseus lands on the island of the Cyclopses and pokes Polyphemus, the head of the Cyclops' eye out.
Ow!
Polyphemus called for his dad, Poseidon, to help him and destroy Odysseus.
Odysseus says, I am Odysseus. And Polyphemus says, Daddy Poseidon, Odysseus hurt me. Make him pay.
Poseidon tells him that he has plans to destroy Odysseus already, and says not to worry. Odysseus' ship wrecks and he lands on the island of Ogygia, and Calypso, a beautiful girl, lives there.
I am Calypso.
After many long years, Odysseus finally finishes building a raft and sails away from Ogygia.
Goodbye, Odysseus.
Odysseus is making headway on his raft, but Poseidon finds out that he is sailing and wrecks his raft.
I will survive.
After Poseidon wrecks his raft, Odysseus lands on the island of Nausicaa.
I am Nausicaa.
Odysseus makes new friends on the island of Nausicaa, and they let him sail home on one of their ships.
Goodbye, Odysseus.
Odysseus, after a long journey, makes it back to his hometown of Ithaca.
Back to Ithaca at last.
Poseidon is so mad that he let Odysseus get home, he wrecks the ship that took him to Ithaca on the way back to Nausicaa.
The end.
The end.
Drew waited like you together.
I don't know why.
Hi, this is our story called Polyphemus and the Strangers, written and illustrated by Annie Meyer, Grace Villeneuve, and Elizabeth Love. My name is Polyphemus and I am a Cyclops. My father is Poseidon, the powerful god of the seas. I take care of the sheep on my island, and every day I lead them out of my cave to the pasture. One day, when I was bringing the sheep back from the pasture, I found strangers in my cave messing with my stuff. I tried to be nice to the strangers, but the strangers were rude and took some of my food and ate it. Because they were mean, I ate 2 of them and locked the others in my cave to deal with later. The leader of the strangers said his name was No Man, and he offered me some of his potion. I thought it was kind of him to give me the potion until I found out it was a trick to make me fall asleep. The next thing I knew, I woke up to the stranger shoving a stick into my eye to blind me. I called out to my friends for help and said, "No man is killing me." My friends didn't think anything was wrong, and I realized that No Man wasn't his real name, and it was another trick. I then decided to let my sheep out into the pasture. One of my poor sheep was lagging behind. I didn't know why he was moving so slow. A few minutes later, I heard the strangers call out to me from their ship as they were escaping. I couldn't see them run away because I am blind now. They must have held on to the sheep to escape, and that was why my sheep was moving so slow. As the strangers were sailing away, the leader of the strangers yelled to me his real name. His name is Odysseus. I was so angry at Odysseus that I called up to my father Poseidon, and I asked my dad to make Odysseus' journey home very difficult and miserable. The end.
I am blind. I am blind now. I can't see it, so we move on. Our story is Athena and the Troubled Telemachus by Libby Hunt, Ashley Smith, and Ashley Simmons. Once upon a time, there was a gray-eyed goddess named Athena, who is known for her wisdom and bringing peace to war.
Hi, I'm Athena.
One day, she was arguing with her father, the great god Zeus, because she wanted a traveler lost from war to return home.
Please, Dad, let him free.
Zeus agreed, but in order for the traveler to return home successfully, Athena had to visit his son Telemachus in Ithaca. When Athena arrived in Ithaca, disguising herself as Mentes, a sailor on a mission, to convince Telemachus to take a journey to learn more about his father.
Welcome to my home, Mentes.
When Athena first arrives as Mentes, Telemachus invites her to dinner. While they're eating, Athena notices that there are men destroying his home, so she decides to give him advice that will help him on his journey and at his home. Athena teaches Telemachus that he must be brave and stand up for what he believes in order to get what he wants.
You can.
I can. The next morning, Telemachus holds a meeting to tell the men destroying his house how that makes him feel and to tell them to stop.
You must leave my house now.
Meanwhile, Athena, now disguised as Mentes, travels through Ithaca and finds men to help Telemachus on his journey. The next morning, Telemachus went to the dock and met his new crew and prepared to set sail on his journey. Thanks to Athena, Telemachus found his confidence. He realized that he had a voice and could stand up for what he believed in. Thanks to the gray-eyed goddess, he now is ready to take on his journey.
The end. Guys, from Minty. Poseidon the Pest, a novel illustrated and written by Joe McAllister, Kieran Linden, and Taylor Bauer. Odysseus, son of Laertes, has earned his fame in the Trojan War and fought to bring down the great city of Troy. During the war, Odysseus was a great and cunning warrior, but for all the good fortune and good luck the gods brought his way, he never thanked them enough. Odysseus wanted to return home to Ithaca to see his wife and to see his kid again. All the Greek gods knew of his disrespect, including Poseidon. Poseidon, the earth shaker and god of the sea, once had a child named Polyphemus, who was the king of the Cyclops. After stopping on Polyphemus' island, Odysseus tricked poor Polyphemus and gouged him in the eye with a hot poker. "Roar!" screeched Polyphemus as Odysseus blinded him. As Odysseus snuck off the island, he proclaimed that not even Poseidon could hurt him, while Polyphemus hurled rocks at him from across the island. Mocking a god is not something to be taken lightly. First, Odysseus was disrespectful to Poseidon, and now he had hurt Poseidon's son, and he had mocked the gods. The Earthshaker decided that Odysseus must pay. Odysseus had spent a long time stranded on Calypso's island, but when he began to sail away on his raft, Poseidon created a mighty wave and crushed Odysseus' raft. Now, after Odysseus' suffering, the gods pitied him, all except for Poseidon. Poseidon continued to hold his grudge against Odysseus, and did everything he could to deter Odysseus from getting home. He blew strong winds against Odysseus' ship, forcing Odysseus to stop frequently. No matter what Poseidon did, Odysseus continued to make his journey home to Ithaca. Angry at being disrespected, Poseidon confronted Zeus, king of the gods. Zeus granted him the right to do anything but kill Odysseus. Further along his journey, Odysseus had drifted to the island of the Phaeacians. Odysseus was granted a beautiful ship fit for a god and began to make his way home. Poseidon punished Odysseus by destroying his new ship and enclosing all the Phaeacians in giant mountains no man could cross. Poseidon forced Odysseus to return to Ithaca with no wealth and no pride. That is the story of how Poseidon learned that sometimes not even the gods can control the destiny of mortals. However, they can punish mortals for their wrongdoings.
Alright.
Waiting for Odysseus, written and illustrated by Zachary Bookstaver, Rebecca Greenspan, and Allison Tilking. In the times of giants and cyclopes, the beautiful queen of Ithaca lived in a palace with her beloved husband Odysseus and their son Telemachus. One day, Odysseus was called to fight against the Trojans, who had stolen another Greek queen, Helen. He reluctantly went to war, much to Penelope's dismay. Her true love was leaving her, for only the gods know how long. Ten years later, the Trojan War had ended. Penelope's husband had not yet come home or even contacted her. As the days went by, Penelope became even more miserable. She spent her days crying to her now grown-up son. As there hadn't been a king to rule Ithaca for 10 years, many suitors for Ithaca had been staying at Penelope's castle, waiting to ask for her hand in marriage. They killed the animals, ate the food, drank the wine, and made a big mess. Penelope denied their constant, annoying requests, hoping that she and her husband would be united once again. After a while, the suitors' requests turned into demands, so Penelope made a plan to make them wait. She thought that Odysseus would return soon. She told him that she would start weaving a green cloth, and when she finished, she would pick a husband. Every day for 3 years, she sat at the loom and wove while the suitors watched, but at night she would sit and unravel it, so she would never finish. However, one day, a maid told the suitors of her plan, and they forced her to finish the cloth. The suitors complained to Telemachus. Their actions had enraged him for years, but this was the final straw. So he left secretly for sandy Pylos in search of his father. Not long after, the suitors and Penelope discovered that Telemachus was gone. Penelope, now with no one to comfort her, could do nothing but cry. Who would ever drive the suitors away? Would her son and her husband ever come home? Tormented by her hopelessness and nearly hopeless grief, she lay in bed, as Athena, the great goddess, soothed her to sleep. Telemachus returned home to his mother after being away for too long. Although the news overjoyed her, Penelope still spent her days and nights weeping and waiting. Getting angry, the suitors decided that she would marry the suitors. The suitors decided that she would marry the suitors who gave her the most gifts and was destined to be her husband. These words enraged her, and she told the suitors that they were haughty and evil men who did not respect her and her family. Standing up for herself, she told them to stop destroying her home and trying to kill her son. The people of Ithaca started spreading rumors that her husband was alive and well. Penelope thought that this news was too good to be true. One day she came upon a mysterious beggar who claimed to have seen her husband. She told the man that she had spent many years waiting for Odysseus' return. The beggar told her that he would return that day, but Penelope doubted his words. Penelope got so sick of the suitors asking for her hand in marriage that she came up with a contest for the suitors. Whichever suitor could string her husband Odysseus' bow and use it to shoot an arrow through 12 axes could marry her. She had finally given up hope that her beloved husband would ever come home. After watching countless suitors try and fail to shoot the arrow, Penelope was losing hope in her marriage prospects. After, out of nowhere, the beggar she had spoken to shouted that he wanted to try and string the bow. The suitors denied his request, but Penelope, curious, decided to let him try. He told her to wait inside until the contest ended. The suitors shouted insults at the beggar until he strung the bow easily and shot it through all 12 axes. Suddenly, thunder boomed, and a man stood in the beggar's place. The man jumped into action, killing all the evil suitors. Eurycleia hurried to Penelope and told the wonderful news, although she was skeptical. The man could only be Odysseus if he knew the secret signs. That night, the stranger sat down with Penelope. She told him that she could sleep outside his room on a bed that her husband had carved many years ago. He angrily asked who had moved his bed. This was the couple's secret sign, and once Penelope realized this, she fell into his arms and rejoiced. After 20 years of waiting, Odysseus had finally returned. The end.
You're a really mean person.
Whenever you're ready.
The Search for the Lost Father by Kate Barnes, Teresa Schultz, and Geneva Lee. Long ago, in an island known as Ithaca, lived a powerful Greek ruler known as Odysseus. He had a son, Telemachus, who...
That was good.
I know, but then I was thinking of Joe.
This is what it's like in the Midsummer Night Dream.
Oh my God!
This is what Karen and I dealt with every day. Flashback to the
She would
flashback.
say it perfectly. She'd be like, and... Okay, go. The search... What?
Sorry. Go.
Introduce all the names. The Search for the Lost Father by Kate Barnes, Teresa Schultz, and Geneva Lee. Long ago, in an island known as Ithaca, lived a powerful Greek ruler known as Odysseus. He had a son, Telemachus, whom he loved very much. Odysseus went to fight in the War of Troy like any powerful leader would. Telemachus waited 20 long years for his father's return, but he never did. As the years went by, Telemachus grew more and more sad and longing for his father. He questioned the possibilities of the lack of his return. Was he lost, or did he get killed on his journey home? Odysseus' wife, Penelope, was feeling just as sad and alone as Telemachus. The arrogant men on the island of Ithaca saw the opportunity of Odysseus' disappearance as a way to steal his beautiful wife and gain their wealth, although Penelope did not like the idea of marrying a man in whom she did not love. Telemachus also did not enjoy the men coming into his home, eating their food, and attempting to replace his father. The beautiful and wise goddess, Athena, saw his misery and decided to visit Telemachus. When she arrived, she encouraged him not to give up hope and to go out on a journey of his own in search for his father. Telemachus accepted Athena's challenge and with her help gathered materials and a crew for his journey to find his father. On Telemachus' first stop was to the island of Chios. He met a friend of his father's by the name of Nestor. He is nice and welcoming, and Telemachus is just as polite back. Nestor notices that Telemachus acts older than he is and sends him to go ask Menelaus about the information he knows about his father. During the feast, Telemachus asks him the most important question. Do you know what happened to my father? Menelaus nods and begins to tell Telemachus what he knows about Odysseus. Feeling confident about the return of his father, Telemachus travels back to his home of Ithaca, hoping that his father would be there. Disappointed that he did not find his father on his return back, he did find a beggar. His parents had always taught him to be polite, and Telemachus treats the beggar with kindness and hospitality.
After seeing how kind and polite Telemachus was to him, the beggar decides that Telemachus should know his real identity. After 20 years of waiting, the beggar revealed himself to be Odysseus, and Telemachus had finally seen his father. Telemachus was so excited to have his father reunited with their family. He informed his father of all the suitors that were trying to steal his father's place in the family. Odysseus was furious at the suitors and wanted them to be killed. Together, Odysseus and Telemachus defeated the suitors. Penelope was thrilled for her husband's return, and after 20 years, they can finally become family again.
Telemachus and the Journey to Find His Father by Shay Murphy, Ted Zorn, and Jack Hayes. Once upon a time, a long time ago, in a far-off land named Ithaca, a boy named Telemachus stood in his father's palace with his mother and watched men eat all of the food in the palace. These men have no one to stand up to them because Telemachus' father, Odysseus, has been gone for a long time, almost as long as Telemachus can remember. Telemachus met with a very good friend of Odysseus's. His name is Mentor. He told Mentor that he wanted to seek out his father, or at least as much information as possible leading to where he may be. Little does Telemachus know, but he is actually talking to the goddess Athena. She was disguised as Mentor because she wanted to help Telemachus on his journey, and she agreed to join him. Telemachus was so excited to start on his journey, he decided to call a meeting and tell everyone what he was going to accomplish. However, the men in the house don't believe that he will be able to accomplish his goal and believe that his father is gone forever. They made fun of his ideas and called him a child. He was very discouraged, but kept on getting ready for his big journey. The leader of the men spoke to the rest of the men once Telemachus had left, saying that he was a fool for trying to find his father, and that failure was certain. All the other men agreed and laughed at Telemachus' expense. Telemachus wouldn't let them bring him down and made sure that everything was perfect for the beginning of his journey. Telemachus had his ship loaded with all the supplies for the journey and gathered a crew from the town. Before they left, the goddess Athena, disguised as Mentor, gave an inspiring speech that lifted the spirits of the whole crew and also gave them hope that the journey would be successful. The crew sailed for a long, tiring time, and finally they made it to their first destination, a large city named Pylos, which was home to a king named Nestor, who ruled the land. He greeted Telemachus with open arms as soon as he realized that he was in the presence of his good friend's son. Nestor told Telemachus about the story of his journey home from the War of Troy. He told tales of the war, and most importantly, he told Telemachus that he believed Odysseus was alive. He also told Telemachus that his next stop on his journey should be to see the king of Sparta, Menelaus. The knowledge learned from Nestor spurred Telemachus. He thanked Nestor for all he had done and left. Telemachus and his crew set off to meet Menelaus in Sparta. When they arrived, Menelaus was confused who the stranger was that had landed in his city. However, it only took a small amount of time for Menelaus to realize that the stranger was actually the well-known son of Odysseus, the man who he owed so much because of his cunning in the war. Menelaus told Telemachus about how Odysseus was responsible for many victories in the war, including the Trojan horse and his acting as a beggar in order to go into the city undetected. Menelaus also told Telemachus that Odysseus allowed him to leave the city, while Odysseus stayed behind to make sure everyone returned home. With this knowledge, he thanked Menelaus for all of the incredible information and set off on the long journey back home to Ithaca with a newfound respect for his father and hope that he would come back from the war very soon. Most importantly, Telemachus left a boy and came back a man.
Left a boy, left a little boy.
The Troublesome Road to Love by Tyler Brooks and Josh. A young man named Antinous was on his normal walk to Ithaca, just like any other day. However, today he realized he was lonely and he really wanted a wife. On the way, he overheard two other men talking about the most beautiful woman in all of Ithaca. They said her name was Penelope, and she lived in a pink house near the edge of the town. Antinous became very eager to meet her, so he could marry her. However, when he got to her house, she was already married to another man named Odysseus. This made Antinous sad, even though he still loved Penelope. Then Penelope's husband, Odysseus, got on a big warship and sailed off to fight a war. This war would take 10 years before it was over. After 10 years was up, Antinous and other men who wanted to marry her told Penelope that she should remarry, because her husband most likely died during the war. Penelope refused, saying that her husband couldn't be dead. This went on for years, and the suitors were unable to convince Penelope to marry a different man. The suitors really wanted her to remarry, but it turns out that Penelope and Odysseus had a son right before he left for war. This son was named Telemachus. This son was now grown up, and he tried to stop the suitors from remarrying his mother. The suitors were planning to get rid of Telemachus when he left on a boat to go find his father. No one knew when he would be back. The suitors were done playing games with Penelope and demanded that she remarried. Odysseus and Telemachus were gone, so she couldn't refuse this time. After 20 years without Odysseus, Penelope realized that her husband was probably dead. She said that whoever could win an archery contest could marry her. Antinous was excited because he thought he could win the archery contest and then marry Penelope. But then Telemachus came back with Odysseus, and Odysseus won the archery contest, and he began to fight the suitors. The suitors had no weapons, and in the end, Antinous was killed by Odysseus. Antinous only wanted a wife, but he tried to marry someone who already had a husband. He should have looked for a woman without a husband, but he didn't. And it did not end well for poor Antinous.
I like that I was funny. This is the best moral ever.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you. All you.
This is Polyphemus' Journey by Matthew,
Nisi,
And Connor.
In the morning, Polyphemus, the Cyclops, son of Poseidon, was out herding his sheep. At the end of the day, he makes a fire and milks his sheep, all in good order. The Cyclops, leading his sheep behind him, entered his cave. He places a huge slab of rock to block the cave door. Polyphemus sees many strangers hiding in his cave and asks who they are. The leader responds saying they're the Greeks. The man tells the Cyclops that he must welcome the strangers into his home, or the gods will punish the Cyclops. The Cyclops, seeing no reason why not to, gobbles up two of the strangers, men. The leader of the strangers comes up with a plan to escape the cave and starts to sharpen a stick while the Cyclops is not looking. After the Cyclops falls asleep, the stranger then stabs him in the eye. Since the Cyclops yells, "No man is hurting me," none of the neighbors feel the need to help him. The strangers then sail away, and the leader yells that his name is Odysseus. Polyphemus then roars, "Poseidon will destroy you." The end.
Yeah.